before. Now he can actually cast 2 spells a turn. He could have cast the Grafdigger's Cage and the second. He could have cast the second Stoneforge Mystic that he had in his hand if he wanted to search out a Batterskull. But
I actually think it's kind of smart to try to attempt to mana screw the Elves deck, simply because, again, they have 20 lands, 4 of them are Cradles, and then 2 of them are Dryad Arbors that come into play untapped, or you know. So, like, I actually think it's pretty smart to try to do that, as Ross is going to replay his Nettle Sentinel, since he doesn't have a green spell to untap it, it looks like. Wilson, in response, there's a Swords. So there goes the Wirewood. Let's see if Nettle Sentinel resolves now, because we know he has a Force of Will. And it does, so he just passes the turn back.
I don't think he has to fight over that card just yet. And so let's see here. He doesn't have any swords left in his hand, so there's no reason to leave a mana up. And I think you might see Jitte come down now. Again, he still has to deal with that Wirewood symbiote because he doesn't have a flyer that he could equip to.
Another Stoneforge.
So Stoneforge is going to come in, search out a Batterskull, or maybe he brought in the Sword of Feast and Famine. Let's see.
I like Sword of Feast and Famine a lot in this situation, but he is going to go get a Batterskull, so he's going to get the big beater.
Yeah, I don't think he boarded in the Feast and Famine. So now he has a pretty beefy threat there. Let's see. He's just going to pass the turn. He doesn't have any other land to play.
Trust me, when I'm watching Jacob Wilson play, I trust his decisions fully.
Yeah.
He is very good with this Delver type of tempo denial strategy.
Yeah.
He's won a Grand Prix with this deck. He's won multiple Open Series Legacy Championships with this deck. We saw him win the Seattle Open earlier this year with Rug Delver, but Delver strategies are his wheelhouse. He's right at home here.
So Ross still has that Misty Rainforest. Doesn't want to sack it just yet because, again, he wants to be able to find the Bayou. So he can cast the Abrupt Decay whenever he chooses. He just needs to cast it just yet, and he doesn't want to expose himself to Wasteland because currently he doesn't have another black source.
I love this attack so much. I can't even put it into words. He's going to double block, and Merriam's going to get to go sacrifice Misty Rainforest, assuming he has Abrupt Decay in his hand. I
don't think you can do this. If anything,
you don't think so?
I think he just bounces. I would rather just bounce it and then say, okay, good read.
No, wait, you get the two for one here on the Stoneforge Mystics, and he doesn't have a guy to equip the Jitte to, and he doesn't get to put Batterskull into play. I think you got to take this.
Yeah, well, the problem is he has a Jitte in his hand.
Doesn't matter if he doesn't have a guy.
Yeah, but you don't. I agree. There aren't that many creatures in Jacob's deck, but we talked about how important the Abrupt Decay is after board because there's so many things that you have to deal with. If Jacob has any other creature, then suddenly this was a really bad play. But we'll see if it works out for him. We know that Jacob has a Delver, but we'll see how this plan works out. I don't know. Jacob drew a Lightning Bolt to deal with that second Wirewood symbiote.
I mean, I'm not going to argue. It's definitely a risk because his Abrupt Decay was being taxed there, right? Where he wants to kill Grafdigger's Cage to turn on Zenith the Natural Order. He wants to use Abrupt Decay to take care of Jitte. So he's definitely got some targets here. His Delver's going to come into the red zone. But I don't know. I like taking that 2-for-1, but maybe if you're Wilson, you're happy with that 2-for-1.
I think you're ecstatic with that 2-for-1 because Stoneforge Mystic just... I don't think he was even planning on winning with Batterskull. I think he just searched for it because he didn't want to have to draw it.
Okay.
It's not really that relevant in this matchup. And the odds of Ross beating you down with the Nettle Sentinel for 5 more turns is so unlikely that I think it's a very risky play because now, again, he found a creature and you still have that Jitte that you have to contend with and you have no way to search out a Kozali Pridemage because there's a Grafdigger's in play.
Now here's a question. Let's say that this Delver doesn't flip. Does Jacob Wilson come into the red zone? Does he equip an attack? Because let's say that Ross has a backup Abrupt Decay. He just he equips the Delver and attacks, and Ross goes Abrupt Decay and tap my Nettle Sentinel because it's a green spell, and block.
I still think you attack there because if it's an Abrupt Decay, then you're going to get blown out no matter what.
Okay.
You're going to lose your Jitte, so I still think you attack there. I think you're okay with just losing a creature and taking a chance. I think odds are he probably doesn't have an Abrupt Decay though. So I think you probably have to read him a little bit, but I would attack there, I think.
All right. No gamble, no future.
No gamble, no future. Jacob, it looked like he checked for Delver of Secrets and then sacked prior to the draw.
Yeah, not an instant, so he just says, all right, put that on the bottom. Let's see what Wilson draws for this turn. A blue card, not sure which one. Looks like a Spell Pierce.
So Jacob, very proficient with Delver because he's played Rug Delver for a long time.
He's played forever.
Knows how to maximize those Delver triggers.
I really want to see if he's going to attack here.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy. You're basically going to have to read your opponent and see what they have here. Ross is definitely telegraphing Abrupt Decay because he
Uh-huh.
put 2 cards to the side. He put the Bayou and the Savannah to the side there. But yeah, let's see what.
Shuffling his hand.
Yeah, but but the fact that Jacob has a second Delver now makes me think he's more likely to attack. So let's see what he decides to do.
Oh,
And
oh, he's reaching
yes, the
in.
Delver is going to come in, and I think the jig is up here.
Oh, Ross ends up taking one, and now the Jitte is online.
So Jitte now online, and no need to kill the Nettle Sentinel just yet, because again, it doesn't really pose much of a threat. You could, it's somewhat of a mana denial because Gaia's Cradle is in play, but again, given the fact that Ross really didn't make any plays for the next 2 turns, you probably think he's got a couple of lands in his hand still, maybe, or just cards that he can't cast anyway. So I don't think he wants to use the Jitte and the Nettle Sentinel just yet.
Here's a glimpse of nature.
And here we could see a Spell Pierce.
Yeah, that would be a backbreaking Spell Pierce.
Yeah, I kind of like Spell Piercing here because if Ross does want it to resolve, he's going to have to tap his last 2 mana.
Wilson's going to start by removing Nettle Sentinel with the Jitte counters.
Oh, and he doesn't tap the Guy's Cradle in response. Yep. So now Spell Pierce will just hard counter it.
And now Merriam just has to pass the turn back here. Really, really good mechanics by Wilson, which doesn't come as a surprise to me, honestly. You see an attack here from one, his Delver's not going to flip, but now Jitte's online again, and there's a Grim Lavamancer. So things are only getting more difficult because I'm not sure how Merriam gets himself out of this game. He can't natural order for Progenitus because of Grafdigger's Cage. He's just going to extend the hand. He's got Progenitus in his hand in the first place, and that is going to do it. So Jacob Wilson, the Delver Master, wins this match in decisive fashion. 2-0. He'll be awaiting the winner. Actually, he knows who he's playing against. He's going to be playing against Vinny Gorman, playing Rug. So you've got blue, white, red versus Rug on one side. We've got on the other side our 1 versus 8 Corey